Hey guys, Drifter here. Welcome to Overwatch In Depth, and today's episode we're going to be taking a look at Sombra, who is a character that I initially truly hated. If you followed me on Twitter or watch any of the streams on my second channel, you'll know that I'm not a big fan of Sombra, my primary frustration being with her weapon, but to master her for in-depth, I did some research, I did some learning, watched some pros, practiced, and decided to give her a second go, and I ended up absolutely loving this character because she is so annoying, so disruptive, and so fun. So let's start off today by talking about her health and passive. She has a base health of 200, and she doesn't have any sort of self-sustain or stealth heal, so she's very squishy, but she's also very difficult to lock down with the Translocator and the invisibility. She's kind of like Tracer, bouncing all over the place. Her mobility makes up for the lack of health. She has a cool passive called Opportunist, which allows her to see players through walls if they have less than 25% or critical health. So anybody that's weak, you can see them through the wall, and this is a very seriously underrated passive because not only can you see where enemies are, you can see where they're positioning, but you can make callouts to your team so that your team can get very easy picks. You can say, hey, Mercy's weak over blah blah blah, hey, Diva's got no healing and she's stuck in this area, and your team can go dogpile them. If your communication is good, the passive is awesome. We're going to talk a little bit about her primary weapon because there's a lot of things going on with it. The damage is 8 to 25, which is very low in Overwatch. That's lower than Diva or Mercy's blaster, but thankfully it shoots much faster at 1200 rounds per minute, and it's actually got a decent drop range at 25 to 15 meters, meaning that the damage will start decreasing at 15 and then it'll hit that pitiful 2.5 at range. The spread box is quite wide, so it's definitely not an accuracy weapon, but it works quite well inside the range it was designed for. It has a reload time of 1.5 seconds, which is a little bit on the slow side for Overwatch, can headshot people, thus doubling damage and making it much more effective, and it has a 60 round magazine. I think the 60 round magazine really makes up for it and means you're going to be reloading it a lot less frequently, and even though it's low damage, you can hold it down on people and continually hose them and harass them with the submachine gun. If you look at its raw damage per second, and assuming relatively close range, you can get out 160 DPS, which is kinda low for a DPS. It would be good for a tank, and it would be good for some of the, support heroes, but for a DPS, that could definitely be better. However, if you're getting headshots, that can double up to 320 and be much more significant. My overall advice with the SMG is to treat it like an SMG and spray and pray. You can kill Pharah with it, you can kill Tracer with it, you can contribute to taking down Reinhardt's shields. Whenever it's time for you to actually fight a Sombra, just spray away, don't worry about the range, don't worry about the accuracy, just hold down the trigger and go to town on people. But Sombra is really not about true DPS. She's about disruption, so let's talk about her hack ability. This disables enemies' abilities for 6 seconds and has an 8-second cooldown. That means they can't use any of their abilities whatsoever or their passive. It can screw up some ultimates. And think of it roughly like a silence from League of Legends, because that's basically what it is. It also reveals their ultimate status above their heads, so your teammates can see which one of the enemies does and does not have an ultimate, which can be incredibly effective for predicting and turning team fights. Instead of just hacking enemies, you can also hack health packs for up to 60 seconds, which is incredibly useful. That means that only people on your team can take them, and enemies cannot. And you can disable turrets for 10 seconds, Torbjorn or Symmetra turrets or whatever, though you're really unlikely to actually have an opportunity to hack those. And honestly, hacking the big 250 health packs charges your ultimates very fast, because you get ultimate charge based on how much health your teammates pick up from the health pack. So I'll hack some of the smaller ones, but hacking the big 250s is the way to go to get your ultimate charged up the fastest. And removing health packs from the map really does screw up the enemy team because it forces them 100% to rely on their healers. And when it comes to best targets to hack, I prefer taking down barriers of any kind. So I love hacking Reinhardt. He's actually quite easy to hack because you can hack him from further away than he can melee you. You cannot hack through his shield though. You have to get him from behind. Hacking Diva is very awesome. She has no barrier and no boost. Hacking Tracer completely removes her mobility and rewind, and hacking Genji removes most of his annoying abilities as well. So those are really awesome targets to hack. If you're going to hack Soldier or McCree or Mercy, it's not as impactful, but hacking anybody is better than hacking nobody. Moving along to her Thermoptic camo, or invisibility, it allows her to go invisible for 6 seconds. It gives her a 50% bonus to movement speed and has a 6-second cooldown, so the cooldown is pretty short, actually even shorter than the hack ability, which is quite short in and of itself. This, I feel, is oddly her least effective move. She's quite loud when she moves around. There's so many choke points in this game and so much trash damage flying around, it's very easy to kind of get nicked. I use this more for the movement speed than I do for the actual invisibility, but if the enemy's not particularly bright, they can miss you, and you can sneak up behind them and give them a very, very rough time. Do keep in mind, though, it does take 0.7 seconds to hack an enemy or shoot after unstealthing. You can't go straight from stealth to performing some kind of action. You have about a half second of delay, and she tends to call herself out when she's unstealthing. It's a very loud call out. So any players rocking good headsets or with good awareness will hear you and turn around and start shooting, so do keep that in mind. It's best to hack people when they're not paying attention. And I think that this ability is best used just to kind of sneak up behind enemies and hack them or their health packs. It's one of the tools that allow you to get behind enemy lines, perhaps not the best one, but one of the ones, and the one that I really like is the Translocator. This allows you to teleport back to any spot that you can throw your Translocator to for up to 15 seconds, and it's on a 4-second cooldown. So its cooldown is very, very short. You can do this every 15 seconds, and this is one of your bread and butter abilities as Sombra. This is your primary mobility around the map. This is what you use to disorient and confuse people, and it allows you to take damage and blink back to your health packs to just charge up your ultimate faster. It can be used to obviously escape back to health to heal yourself. You can farm it for your ultimate. You can use it to completely jump over choke points. You can actually use it as an escape, which I'm kind of a novice Sombra. I'll just fling it in some random direction and just translocate there to get a little distance away from the enemy, or you can use it as an engage and translocate into your enemy and ultimate them, which is very, very fun. It's a really good ability, one that you definitely want to master, and honestly, if you don't use your Translocator, you shouldn't bother playing Sombra. At least have it ready to go to return to a health pack, at least use it to escape an enemy, at least use it to initiate, do something with it. The novice Sombras are the one that rely on invisibility and don't use the Translocator. Please remember, the Translocator is your friend. And now let's talk about her ultimate. Now this is the one that really makes me moist. This is the one that I enjoy more than anything else, and why I think Sombra is such a great character, is that it essentially applies the hack effect to all enemies in a 15-meter radius and has a duration of 6 seconds. It bursts around you, you don't throw the ultimate, so you just activate it, and anybody in a 15-meter radius of you is going to get hacked for 6 seconds. That means they can't use their abilities, it disables all shields, and it shows their ultimate status, which is God tier. But of note, the EMP is so strong, it will pierce through and disable all shields. So Reinhardt, Orisa, Winston, any sort of shield ability is going to be completely taken down. It can even cancel Lucio's Break It Down. So if the enemy team breaks it down during one of your teammates' ultimate, you can actually EMP them and completely remove the Lucio shield. But you should keep in mind this ability does not go through walls. It's a little bit confusing because I'm pretty sure real life EMPs go through walls quite well. But it doesn't go through walls. It works on a line of sight method. Typically you want to airburst it or be really close to the team, but the EMP is a god tier initiation move, quite possibly the best in the entire game, and it combos stupidly well with Graviton and Shatter. You typically would use the Graviton first and then EMP everybody that's inside the Graviton, or if you want to, what pros do, and what I had a really good Reinhardt doing in some of these games, is I would EMP so they would have no shields or abilities to block the Shatter, and then Reinhardt would get a big, nice, fat Earth Shatter and get most of the team, and we could kind of mop them up. Even when they would get back up from the Shatter, they would still be EMP'd, so their abilities would be limited. Very, very good initiation. You'll get a lot of good team kills with this. You'll get a lot of work done. And I think if you're playing Sombra, charging your EMP fast is your #1 goal, and the best way to do that is with the health packs. Hacking enemies is good, shooting them is good, being annoying is good, but hacking the 250 point health packs and translocating back to them or giving them back to your teammates is your #1 goal, and it's your #1 thing to charge up that EMP really fast, because all you really want to do with Sombra is EMP the enemies and then let your teammates ultimate all over their face while you hose them down with your SMG, and it can work so good. I think Sombra is a great pick for offense, but only if your team coordinates with your EMP. You can use her for defense as well, but she really strikes me as more of an offensive character. And if you have poor teamwork, Sombra is a poor pick. You need to have somebody there to communicate with you, to combo with Shatter and Grav and other ultimates and healing. And you need to call out who you're hacking, and you need to focus that person. And she can be so dirty like that, which is why you see her more and more at higher levels of play and less at lower levels of play. However, she really doesn't DPS that hard. She's not a traditional DPS. You cannot rely on Sombra for true actual damage. Just rely on her for amazing disruptions. Finally today, let's talk about counters. Sombra is very strong against Reinhardt, Bastion, Tracer, and D.Va, also pretty good against Genji, but Reinhardt especially, she can get behind him, hack, and lower his shield, which makes him a lot less useful, but it also makes him unable to fire strike or dash, so it removes the vast majority of your Reinhardt threat. She can hack Bastion out of his turret form, she can remove Tracer's mobility, and she can make D.Va unable to fly or cast her barrier, which makes her just a gigantic target. Hacking Genji is pretty good as well, but he still deals significant damage with the shurikens, and he's still going to be able to double jump and wall climb. However, Sombra is countered quite well by Winston because of the electricity hitting everything, Pharah because of the range, Symmetra because of her microwave cannon that just locks onto anything, and the fact that the other turrets will lock onto her, and oddly enough Junkrat, because even if she hacks Junkrat, he's still going to be able to pump out plenty of damage just straight into her face with the frag launcher and against the rest of her team. So I really think that Sombra is an underrated character and very fun to play, and if you haven't tried her out, or if you did try her out and wasn't impressed with the damage like I was the first time around, I would tell you to give it a go and do nothing but ult farm, and you'll get a lot of team kills. Guys, that's all for this episode of In Depth. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something useful, and if you did, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. Drifter out.